My parents spent 15 years telling me we were one missed paycheck away from the street because of my brother's medical school tuition. But I just found the bank statements for a secret $1.2 million legacy fund they were hiding to buy a villa in Italy.
This is the story of Vengeance Redux.
The air in my father's study smells like stale cigar smoke and old, expensive paper. My thumb catches on a rough seam in the mahogany desk leg, a tiny gap no one was ever supposed to notice. I press hard. A hidden drawer clicks open with a sound that feels like a physical punch to my ribs. Inside, there aren't any old family photos or sentimental junk. There are crisp white envelopes from Chase and Vanguard. I pull out a statement and my heart hammers against my chest like a trapped bird. $1,240,000. The number is huge and cold. My stomach turns liquid. All those years I worked double shifts at the diner, wearing thrift store shoes with thin soles, while my parents sighed about empty wallets, they were funneling cash into a private retirement dream. While my brother, Liam, lies in a hospital bed with shattered legs and mounting debt, Mom is bookmarking luxury cruises. The lie is so thick I can taste it, bitter like copper. The air in the study tastes like dust and the sharp, sour tang of my father's cheap coffee. It's quiet, the kind of heavy silence that makes your ears ring. My thumb catches on a rough ridge in the wood of the desk leg, a tiny seam hidden under layers of dark wax. I press. There's a dull wooden thud and a slender drawer slides out. My pulse thumps in my fingertips. Inside, it's not old letters or keys, it's a stack of thick, cream-colored envelopes. I pull one out, and the paper feels stiff and expensive between my hands. My eyes lock onto the balance at the bottom. $1,240,000. The room goes cold. My stomach drops, that sick, hollow feeling you get when a car swerves towards you. This is the empty nest. This is the sacrifice that sent me to work 60-hour weeks in a grease-stained apron while my shoes wore through to the pavement. Every time Mom sighed about Liam's tuition, every time Dad looked at his worn-out wallet, they were stacking these bills, $1.2 million. While Liam is hooked up to morphine drip with a shattered pelvis, they're sitting on a fortune they swore didn't exist. The lie feels like a physical weight on my chest, hot and suffocating. The smell of burnt sugar and Granny Smith apples clings to the floral wallpaper of the kitchen, thick enough to choke on. My mother, Ciara, pulls a steaming pie from the oven, her face flushed pink from the heat. It's the same smell that's drifted through this house for 24 years, the scent of home. But to me, it smells like a distraction. "Careful, Ciara," she says, her voice thin and airy. "The crust is delicate." I watch her set the pie on a cooling rack. My stomach does a slow, familiar churn. I'm sitting at the scarred oak table, my fingers tracing a deep gouge in the wood. Across from me, my father, Robert, is hunched over a stack of bills, his reading glasses perched on the tip of his nose. He lets out a long, theatrical sigh that whistles through his teeth. "Empty nest, empty wallets," he mutters, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. He taps a pen against a utility bill. "It's tight this month, Ciara. Between the property taxes and the last of Liam's tuition payments, we're down to the bone, practically retirement age, and we've got nothing but the shirt on our backs." My throat feels tight, like I've swallowed a stone. I know this script. I've lived it since I was 18. "I know, Dad," I say. My voice is flat. "That's why I took the extra shifts at the accounting firm. I've got my rent covered." I think about my apartment across town, a cramped studio where the radiator clanks all night and the linoleum is peeling in the corners. I think about the $4 boxes of generic pasta I buy to make sure I have enough left over for oil paints and canvas. Every cent I earn is a battle. "We wish we could do more for your little art hobby, sweetie," Mom says, patting my hand. Her skin feels dry and papery. "But Liam, he's the future, a doctor in the family. That kind of greatness takes every penny we have. It's a sacrifice we all have to make." I'm not asking for money, Mom, I say. The words feel like grit in my mouth. Good, Dad grunts, not looking up, because there isn't any. We're tapped out. We've given everything to make sure your brother doesn't have to struggle the way we did. The unfairness of it hot wires my nerves. I love Liam. He's my brother. And when he calls me to brag about his new apartment near the hospital, which my parents pay for, I listen and I cheer. He lives in a place with central air and a dishwasher. He wears North Face jackets and driving loafers. Meanwhile, I'm scrubbing the ink off my cuticles every night so I can go back to the firm and balance other people's millions. I stand up, my chair legs screeching against the floor. The sound makes Dad flinch, and for a second, I feel a spark of dark satisfaction. I should go, I say. I have a deadline for a commission. Art again? Mom sighs, shaking her head as she wipes a smudge of flour from the counter. I just hope you're keeping those spreadsheets up to date, Ciara. You need something stable. You can't eat paint. I walk out the back door, the humid air hitting me like a wet towel. My heart is thudding against my ribs, a fast, angry rhythm. I reach into my pocket and feel the crinkle of my bus pass. I couldn't afford the gas for my beat-up Civic this week, so I'm walking 3 blocks to the stop. As I trek down the cracked sidewalk, I look back at the house. It's a big, beautiful colonial with a wraparound porch and fresh white trim. It doesn't look like the home of people who are down to the bone. It looks solid. It looks expensive. But the narrative is set in stone. Liam is the investment, and I am the overhead. I get to the bus stop and sit on the cold metal bench. My hands are shaking, just a little. It's not just the money, it's the way they say sacrifice like it's a religion. They've made me feel like every tube of cobalt blue I buy is a theft from my brother's future. The bus pulls up, brakes squealing, smelling of diesel and old rain. I climb on and find a seat in the back. I close my eyes and try to breathe, but the scent of that apple pie is still stuck in my nose. It's the smell of a house full of love for one child and practicality for the other. I didn't know then that the empty wallets were a lie. I didn't know that while I was counting out nickels for the laundromat, they were watching their hidden numbers grow. All I felt was the weight of being the daughter who didn't matter enough to be a sacrifice.
The vibration of my phone against the glass coffee table sounds like a chainsaw in the quiet of my studio. It's 2:14 a.m. The air in my apartment is cold and smells like linseed oil and the turpentine I used to clean my brushes an hour ago. I reach for the phone, my fingers stained with a stubborn smear of burnt umber. Ciara? It's Anya, Liam's fiancée. Her voice is jagged, like she's breathing through broken glass. My stomach does a slow, sickening roll. Anya? What's wrong? Is Liam okay? There was an accident on the I-95. A semi-truck hydroplaned. She chokes on a sob, and I can hear the sterile, rhythmic beeping of a hospital monitor in the background. That sound, sharp and mechanical, makes the hair on my arms stand up. He's alive, Ciara, but his legs, his back, the surgery is going to take hours. They're saying he might not walk for a year, maybe longer. The room feels like it's tilting. I grab the edge of my drafting table to steady myself, my palm pressing against a stray thumbtack. The sharp prick of pain is the only thing keeping me upright. I'm coming. I'm calling Mom and Dad now. I hang up and dial. My pulse is a frantic drum in my ears. Dad answers on the 4th ring, his voice thick with sleep. Dad? It's Liam. He's in the hospital. A wreck on the highway. It's bad. There is a long silence. Not the silence of shock, but something heavier, more calculated. I hear the rustle of sheets and Mom's muffled voice asking what's happening. Then a sharp intake of breath from my father. Will he be able to finish his residency? Dad asks. His voice isn't trembling with fear for his son's life. It's tight, transactional. Dad, he's in surgery. They don't know if he'll walk. I'm shouting now, my voice bouncing off the bare walls of my studio. Anya says the bills, the recovery, it's going to be astronomical. He's going to lose his spot in the program if he can't work. I hear Mom take the phone. Her voice is different now. The soft, sweetie tone she uses when she's talking about apple pie is gone. It's replaced by a cold, brittle edge. "A year out of work?" she whispers. "But we just finished the final payment for the semester. He was supposed to start his senior residency. He was supposed to start earning." "Mom, he's hurt." "We know he's hurt, Ciara," she snaps, and the sound of it makes my skin go cold. "But we are at the limit. We told you, we've sacrificed everything. If he can't work, if he can't finish, all that money we put in, it's just gone?" My jaw drops. I can feel the bile rising in my throat. They aren't talking about his pain or his fear. They're talking about their investment crashing. The golden sun isn't a person right now. He's a stock that just bottomed out. "I'm going to the hospital," I say, my voice shaking. I grab my keys and my denim jacket. My hands are trembling so hard I drop my keys twice on the linoleum. By the time I get to the hospital, the smell hits me first. Bleach, floor wax, and that metallic scent of blood and old illness. I find Anya in the waiting room. She looks small in the oversized plastic chair, her face pale under the harsh fluorescent lights. I sit next to her, and she collapses against me. Her scrub top is damp with tears. The insurance won't cover the specialized rehab, and his student loans, the interest alone is going to drown us if he's not getting his residency stipend. We're going to lose the apartment. Everything we saved for the wedding is already gone to the deductible. I look toward the double doors where my parents should be walking through any minute. I imagine them rushing in, tearful and frantic, checkbooks open, ready to do whatever it takes for their favorite child, the child they gave everything for. But when Sarah and Robert finally walk down the hallway, they aren't running. They're walking, slowly, shoulders hunched, looking at the floor. They look like people going to a funeral for a bank account. Mom sits down across from Anya, but she doesn't hug her. She clutches her handbag to her chest like a shield. "We talked to the doctor on the way in," Dad says, his voice flat. He doesn't look at Liam's fiancée. He looks at a spot on the wall behind her. "A year of physical therapy, private nurses, specialized equipment. It's too much." "He needs us," I say, leaning forward. My heart is pounding against my ribs. Mom looks at me, and for the first time I see a flicker of something that looks like panic, quickly masked by that familiar, weary sigh. "Ciara, be realistic," she says. "We've already given him everything we had. There's nothing left to sell. He was our finish line. Now, though, now he's just a debt we can't afford to pay." The air in the waiting room feels thin, like all the oxygen has been sucked out. I look at my parents, the people who told me for a decade that every penny went to Liam because he was destined for greatness. Now that the greatness is delayed, they're looking at him like a broken appliance they want to return. The golden sun has fallen, and to my parents, he's no longer a son, he's a liability. The fluorescent lights in the hospital hallway hum with a low, vibrating frequency that makes my teeth ache. It's been 6 hours since the surgery started. My coffee has gone cold, forming a slick, oily film on top of the styrofoam cup. I look at my parents. They are sitting side by side on a vinyl bench, their faces set in grim, identical masks. "He needs $60,000 just for the first phase of rehab," I say. My voice sounds raspy, like I've been swallowing sand. "That's not including the rent Anya can't pay or the modifications for the apartment. If he doesn't get this specific therapy, he won't walk again. He won't be a doctor. Everything you worked for goes down the drain." I lean forward, my hands gripping my knees. I can feel the sweat slicking my palms. "Mom, Dad, you have to help. You always said he was the priority. Well, here it is. This is the moment." Mom's hand tightens on the strap of her leather purse. Her knuckles are white, the skin stretched tight over her bones. She doesn't look at me. She looks at a wet floor sign 20 feet away. "Ciara, we told you. We took out a second mortgage to get him through that last year of med school. We're on a fixed income now. We're practically at retirement age, for heaven's sake. We're tapped out. Sell the house, I say. The words fall between us like a lead weight. Dad's head snaps up. His eyes are bloodshot, his jaw tight. Sell the house? Are you insane? That's our legacy, Ciara. We've lived there 30 years. Where would we go? A trailer? You could downsize, get a condo, use the equity to save your son. My heart is hammering so hard I can see my shirt moving. My stomach is a tight, hot knot of pure desperation. He's 27 years old. His life is ending before it starts because of a truck and some rain. How can you sit here and talk about a house? It's not just a house. Mom's voice hits a sharp, piercing note that cuts through the hum of the hallway. A nurse at the station looks up, frowning. Mom leans in close to me, and for a second, the poignant sigh slips. Her eyes are hard, cold, and strangely panicked. This house is all we have left, Ciara. We have given and given until there's nothing but bone. You have no idea what it's like to be our age and have your safety net shredded. We cannot help him. We won't help him if it means we end up on the street. The won't hits me like a physical blow to the solar plexus. I lose my breath for a second. The air in the hallway feels frozen. You won't? I whisper. We can't, Dad corrects quickly, his voice dropping back into that practiced, weary drone. Empty nest, empty wallets. It's the hard truth of it. We're sorry, Ciara, truly, but Liam will just have to declare bankruptcy. He'll have to find another way. I stand up, my legs feeling like jelly. I look at these two people, my parents, who spent a decade making me feel guilty for every sandwich I bought while they sacrificed for the golden boy. And now, when the golden boy is broken, they are protecting the bricks and mortar of a house like it's more valuable than his blood. I have to get some air, I mutter. I walk toward the exit, my head spinning. I reach the glass doors and push out into the humid night. I stand on the sidewalk, breathing in the smell of wet asphalt and car exhaust. My brain is looping. Second mortgage, fixed income, tapped out. It sounds so rehearsed. I pull out my phone and pull up my banking app. I have $1,400 in my savings. It's nothing. I think about the accounting firm, the thousands of ledgers I've balanced. My mind starts doing the math. My parents bought that house in the 90s for $180,000. It's worth at least $700,000 now. Even with a second mortgage, there should be hundreds of thousands in equity. Why the panic? Why the all we have left line? I look back through the glass doors at them. They aren't comforting Anya. They are whispering to each other, huddled close, looking like two people guarding a secret rather than two people losing a son. Then my phone buzzes. It's a text from Anya, who is still inside with Liam. The hospital just called. Someone tried to run Liam's primary insurance, but there's a flag. He's still listed as a dependent on your dad's old premium plan from the firm, the one he said he canceled to save money for Liam's tuition. Ciara, if that plan is still active, it means they've been lying about the costs for years. My blood turns to ice. My stomach drops into my shoes. If they didn't cancel the plan, then the astronomical tuition costs they used to guilt me into working double shifts were a fabrication. The empty nest isn't just a mantra, it's a cover story. And if they weren't spending that money on Liam, where the hell has it been going for the last 10 years? I don't go back inside. I walk straight to my car. I need to get into that house. I need to see the books. The drive to my parents' house is a blur of orange streetlights and the smell of stale coffee in my car. My hands are still shaking as I turn my key in the front door. The house is silent, heavy with the scent of lemon pledge and the ghost of that apple pie. They're still at the hospital, playing the part of the grieving, penniless parents. I don't turn on the lights. I use the flashlight on my phone, the beam cutting through the dark like a blade. I head straight for the study. The room smells like old books and my dad's expensive wool coats. It's the room where every talk about my future happened. The room where I was told I couldn't go to the prestigious art summer program because the well was dry. I shine the light on the mahogany desk. It's a massive, hulking piece of furniture with clawed feet. I've spent thousands of hours staring at things, really staring at them. That's what an artist does. You see the way light hits a curve, the way a shadow hides a flaw. As a kid, I used to sit on the rug while Dad worked, tracing the wood grain of the desk legs. There was a story he used to tell, a joke really, that the desk was built by a paranoid clockmaker who didn't trust banks. I dismissed it as a fairy tale meant to keep me entertained while he did the taxes. But Anya's text is screaming in my head. They lied about the insurance. I kneel on the plush carpet, the fibers scratching my bare knees. My heart is a frantic, messy beat in my throat. I run my fingers down the front right leg of the desk. The wood is cold and smooth, polished to a glass finish. But then, near the base, my nail catches. I stop. My breath hitches. There's a seam. It's thinner than a hair, almost invisible under the dark stain. If I hadn't spent years obsessing over the texture of canvas and the edges of shadows, I would have missed it. It's a perfect vertical line that disrupts the natural flow of the mahogany grain. My pulse thumps in my ears, a loud, echoing sound. I press on the wood. Nothing happens. I push to the left. Nothing. My stomach is a tight ball of ice. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just looking for a reason to hate them. Then I remember the story. The clockmaker only opens for a heavy hand. I put the heel of my palm against the ornate carving just above the seam and shoved downward with everything I've got. Click. The sound is small, but in the dead quiet room, it sounds like a gunshot. A slender 5-inch drawer slides out from the side of the leg. It moves with a silent, oiled grace that makes my skin crawl. This wasn't a DIY project. This was professional. I reach inside. My fingers brush against paper, not the soft, dusty paper of old letters, but the crisp, stiff texture of high-grade stationery. I pull the stack out and lay it on the desk blotter. I turn on the desk lamp. The yellow bulb flickers to life, stinging my eyes. The first document is a bank statement from a private wealth management firm. The name at the top, the Empty Nest Legacy Fund. Beneath it, the owners, Robert and Ciara Valet. My eyes skip down to the balance. My vision blurs for a second, then snaps into focus. $1,240,072. The air leaves my lungs. I feel a sharp stabbing paving my chest like I've been hit with a physical weight. $1.2 million. I flip to the next page. It's a ledger of monthly transfers, $4,000 every month, like clockwork, for the last 10 years. The exact amount they told me was going toward Liam's uncovered medical school fees. I flip again. A glossy brochure falls out. It's for a luxury villa in Tuscany. There are handwritten notes in my mother's elegant script in the margins. Marble floors in the kitchen. Needs a view of the vine. I see another folder. It's a full itinerary for a 180-day world cruise departing next spring. The cost for the suite alone is more than I've made in the last 3 years of accounting work. A hot, searing rage begins to boil in my gut. I think about my thrift store shoes. I think about the nights I cried because I couldn't afford a new set of brushes. I think about Liam, right now, lying in a hospital bed with a shattered body, while my father tells him to declare bankruptcy. They didn't just choose Liam over me, they chose a villa and a cruise over both of us. They watched us struggle, watched us bleed, and used our love for each other as a weapon to keep us quiet while they hoarded a fortune. I hear a car pull into the driveway, headlights sweep across the study wall. They're home. My hand trembles as I reach for my phone. I don't put the papers back. I start taking pictures. Every page, every number, every cruel handwritten note about marble floors. The front door creaks open. I hear my mother's voice, tired and rehearsed. "It's for the best, Robert. He'll understand eventually. We have to protect our future." I slide the drawer shut. Click. I stand in the darkness of the study, the phone hot in my hand, my heart turning into a cold, hard stone. The practical daughter is gone. The artist has seen the truth. The yellow glow of the desk lamp flickers, casting long, shaky shadows across the mahogany. My hands are cold, but my face feels like it's being held to a burner. I stare at the top statement. It isn't just a number, it's a crime. $1,240,000.72. The ink is black and sharp, staring back at me with total indifference. My stomach lurches, a wet, heavy thud against my ribs. I flip the page. My eyes burn as I scan the monthly transfers. $4,000 every single month for 10 years. I do the math in my head because I'm the practical one. I'm the accountant. $48,000 a year. That wasn't Liam's tuition. That wasn't the second mortgage payment they cried about over Sunday dinners. It was a hoard. It was a mountain of cash they sat on while I skipped meals to buy a single tube of oil paint. I grab a glossy folder from the bottom of the stack. The paper is thick, coated in a high sheen finish that feels oily under my thumb. It's a brochure for a grand world voyage, 180 days, penthouse suite. I see my mother's handwriting in the margin next to a photo of a sun-drenched deck. Check if the spa has the seaweed wrap Robert likes. A bitter, metallic taste fills my mouth, the taste of old pennies and rage. Robert doesn't need a seaweed wrap. Robert needs to save his son's legs. I find the next one, a real estate packet for a villa in Tuscany. There are floor plans, 5 bedrooms, a vineyard, a private pool. My father's messy scrawl is all over the property taxes section. He'd calculated the conversion from euros to dollars down to the cent. He had the money to buy a literal castle in Italy, but he told Liam to declare bankruptcy in a hospital hallway. The floor feels like it's vibrating. I realize it's my own legs shaking. Every memory I have of the last decade starts to warp and rot. I see Mom patting my hand, her face full of fake pity, telling me they couldn't help with my art show because the well was dry. I see Dad driving his 10-year-old Ford, pretending he couldn't afford a tune-up, while this account grew by $4,000 every 30 days. It wasn't just greed, it was a performance. They cast me as the struggling artist and Liam as the golden burden, also they could play the role of the martyrs. They built a cage out of sacrifice and locked us both inside. I hear the heavy thud of the front door closing. The floorboards in the hallway groan under my father's weight. "Robert, did you lock the garage?" Mom's voice. It's calm, almost cheerful. The empty nest tragedy they were performing at the hospital has been tucked away for the night. My heart hammers against my sternum like a fist. I reach for my phone. My fingers are numb, fumbling with the camera app. I don't just take one photo, I take 50. I snap every statement, every brochure, every handwritten note about marble countertops in Italian summers. I hear their footsteps getting closer. They're coming to the study. "I'll just check the mail one last time," Dad says. His voice is right outside the door. I shove the papers back into the slender drawer. I don't have time to align them perfectly. I slam the wood shut. Click. I dive for the window, my pulse roaring in my ears. I slide the latch open, the old metal biting into my skin, and scramble out onto the porch roof just as the study door creaks open. The humid night air hits me, smelling of cut grass and rain, but I don't feel the relief. I only feel the weight of the phone in my pocket. I'm not the practical daughter anymore. I'm a witness, and I'm going to make sure everyone sees exactly what's hidden in the grain of that desk. The light in my studio is a sick, pale yellow, buzzing like a trapped fly. It's 3 a.m., and the air smells like high-gloss varnish and the cold, metallic scent of the X-Acto blades scattered across my workbench. My back aches, a sharp, localized throb between my shoulder blades, but I don't sit down. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that number, $1,240,000. It's burned into my retinas like a sunspot. I grab a stack of old family photos. My hands are steady now, a cold surgical precision taking over. I take a photo of Liam from his high school graduation, him smiling, arm around Dad, and I slice it. The blade hisses through the glossy paper. I cut them into thin, jagged strips. I do the same to a picture of me at my art school commencement, the one where Mom was looking at her watch the whole time. I'm not just painting anymore. I'm building a trap. I begin constructing the diorama. The base is heavy plywood, 4 feet wide. I build the walls of the living room out of the shredded memories. I use heavy-duty Gorilla Glue to layer the strips, weaving them together until the walls look like they're made of skin and secrets. My throat is dry, feeling like I've swallowed a handful of sawdust. I take a sip of lukewarm tap water, but it doesn't help. The centerpiece is the mahogany desk. I spend 3 days carving a miniature version of it out of balsa wood. I stain it with dark walnut ink until it matches the beast in my father's study. My fingers are stained black, the ink settled deep into the creases of my knuckles. I work until my eyes blur and my stomach growls a hollow, angry protest. I ignore it. I feed on the rage. It's better than caffeine. It's cleaner. I print out the photos I took on my phone, the bank statements, the legacy fund header, and the Tuscan villa with the handwritten notes about marble floors. I don't just paste them in. I hide them. I build a false wall into the back of the diorama, a mechanical slide that mirrors the one in the desk. I spend hours fiddling with a tiny brass hinge, my breath coming in short, shallow hitches, until, click, the panel slides open. The evidence is there, illuminated by a tiny hidden LED. Ciara, you in there? It's Anya. She's standing at the studio door, her eyes rimmed with red. She looks exhausted, her skin the color of old parchment. She's been pulling double shifts to pay for Liam's bedside care because my parents can't afford a private nurse. I'm here, I say. I don't turn around. I'm applying a layer of translucent resin over a photo of Mom's cruise itinerary. What is all this? Anya asks, walking closer, her sneakers squeaking on the dusty floor. She looks at the diorama, the spectral figures of me and Liam made of wire and gauze reaching out to nothing. It's heavy, Ciara. It feels like a scream. It's the truth, I say. I finally turn to her. My pulse is slow and heavy, like a deep-sea tide. How is he? The bank called today, Anya whispers. Her voice cracks. They're starting the foreclosure on our apartment. Your parents, they told me they'd pray for us. They said they wished they had a penny to spare, but the empty nest has left them with nothing. A hot spark of electricity shoots down my arms, making my fingers twitch. I look back at the diorama. I look at the hidden panel where the $1,000,000 lie is tucked away. Don't worry about the bank, Anya. My voice is a low, gritty rasp. I have a solo show in 2 weeks. Every gallery owner and local reporter in the city will be there. My parents, too. They're so proud of their practical daughter. I pick up a brush and dip it into a glob of deep, bruised purple. I'm giving them exactly what they want, I mutter, a dark, jagged smile pulling at my mouth. A legacy they'll never forget. Anya looks at me, a flicker of fear in her eyes. She doesn't understand yet. She hasn't seen the grain in the wood. But as I press the brush to the canvas, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. The tension in the room is a physical weight, a coiled spring ready to snap. The air in the gallery is thin and smells of expensive gin, floor wax, and the heavy floral perfume of women who never have to check their bank balances. My skin feels too tight for my body. My heart is a slow, rhythmic thud against my ribs. Thump, 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 like a fist hitting a wooden door. I stand in the corner, clutching a glass of seltzer until the cold numbs my fingers. I'm wearing a black dress I found at a thrift store and tailored myself. It's practical, just like my parents always wanted. Ciara, darling, it's just wonderful. My mother, Sarah, glides towards me. She's wearing a silk scarf that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Behind her, Robert wears his Sunday best, a charcoal suit that smells faintly of mothballs in the study. They look radiant. They look like the heroes of a tragedy they wrote themselves. The way you've captured the struggle in these pieces, Mom says, gesturing to a painting of a girl eating at a bare table. She dabs at her eye with a lace handkerchief. It reminds us so much of the sacrifices we've all made for Liam. It's so moving. Everyone is talking about the centerpiece, Dad adds, leaning in. He smells like a peppermint he's sucking on to hide the scent of his morning coffee. The diorama, very detailed, Ciara. A bit dark, but detailed. I look past them. Liam is there too. He's in a wheelchair, his legs covered by a thick wool blanket despite the heat of the room. Anya stands behind him, her hands gripping the rubber handle so hard her knuckles are white. Liam looks tired, his face gaunt, his eyes tracking the room with a hollow sort of longing. He looks like a man who has been hollowed out by debt and morphine. I see the local news reporter, a woman in a sharp blue blazer, eyeing the diorama. I see the gallery owner checking his watch. The room is a powder keg of polite chatter and hidden sharp edges. "It's time for the talk," the gallery owner whispers in my ear. I walk to the center of the room. The chatter dies down. The only sound is the hum of the air conditioning and the distant, lonely siren of an ambulance outside. I stand next to the diorama, the scale model of the living room I grew up in, built from shredded lies and bank statements. "Thank you all for coming," I say. My voice is steady, but my stomach is a cold, churning sea of bile. This collection is called Echoes in the Walls. It's about the things we don't say, the things we hide in the grain of the wood to keep our lives looking perfect. I see my father nod solemnly. He thinks I'm talking about artistic truth. He thinks he's part of the poem. We're told that home is a sanctuary, I continue, my eyes locking onto my mother's. She's smiling, her head tilted in that fake, supportive way. But for some, it's a ledger, a place where love is traded for silence, and sacrifice is just a word used to justify greed. A few people in the crowd shift uncomfortably. The tension in the room ripples like wind over dark water. I can feel the heat of the spotlights on my neck. I can feel the weight of the phone in my pocket, the one containing the photos of the $1.2 million legacy. I grew up believing my family was broke. I believed my brother's education took every cent. I believed my parents were holding on to their house by a thread. I reach out and touch the balsa wood desk in the diorama. My finger rests right on the hidden seam. "I found a secret," I say. I look at Liam. He's staring at me, his brow furrowed. Then I look at Ciara and Robert. The smile on my mother's face is starting to flicker like a dying light bulb. She knows that look in my eye. She knows I've stopped being practical. The panel slides open with a dry wooden scrape that echoes through the sudden silence of the gallery. My heart is a frantic, jagged mess against my ribs. I reach into the dark hollow of the diorama and pull out the miniature stack of papers. They are perfect, tiny replicas of the documents I found in the desk, printed with a resolution so sharp you can see the stamp of the bank. "This is the Empty Nest Fund," I say. My voice is steady, but my skin feels electric, like a storm is about to break. Tonight, I'm adding a new element to the show. I tap the screen of the iPad mounted to the wall. The projector on the ceiling whirs to life. A massive image hits the white gallery wall, 10 feet tall and impossible to ignore. On the left is a scan of Anya's last bank statement. Available balance, $14.22. Below it, a red notice for Liam's physical therapy bills. On the right, I project the photo of the Tuscan villa brochure. My mother's handwriting is blown up until it's the size of a person. "Make sure the terrace gets the afternoon sun." The contrast is a physical blow. The room goes ice cold. "Ciara!" My father's voice is a low, guttural growl. He tries to step toward me, his face a mottled, angry purple, but the crowd is too thick. People are backing away from him like he's carrying a plague. My mother doesn't scream. She doesn't even move. She stands there, her hand halfway to her mouth, her eyes fixed on the $1.2 million balance projected over her head. The red wine on her white shoes has dried into a dark, ugly stain. For 10 years, I say, and my voice finally cracks, the heat of the rage breaking through. For 10 years, they told us we were broke. They told me I had to be practical so they could afford Liam. They told Liam he had to declare bankruptcy while he was still in a hospital bed, all while they were stacking bills for a world cruise and a house in Italy. I look at Liam. He's staring at the screen, his mouth working but no sound coming out. His hands are shaking so hard the wool blanket is sliding off his lap. He looks at Dad, then at the numbers, and I see the moment the light goes out in his eyes. The golden sun just realized he was never a son at all. He was a mask. "This exhibit is a silent auction," I announced, looking directly at the gallery owner, who was staring at me with his jaw open. "Every single dollar raised tonight, every cent from these paintings and this diorama goes to Liam's medical fund. My parents wanted a legacy. Well, here it is." A woman in the front row, a regular at these shows, wipes a tear from her cheek and marches straight to the bidding sheet. She scribbles a number with a sharp, aggressive flick of the pen. Then another man follows. Then another. "Ciara, stop this!" Mom finally finds her voice. It's a shrill, panicked sound. "You don't understand. We were protecting our future. We earned that money." "You earned it by lying to your children," I say. I feel a strange, cold calm wash over me. The knot in my stomach finally unties. The night that Anya and Liam had to move into the plastic-sheeted homeless shelter, you were counting money for a cruise that stopped in 20-cent ports. Robert tried to grab my arm, but Liam's voice stops him. It's a weak, raspy sound, but it cuts through the noise like a blade. "Don't touch her, Dad," Liam says. He's looking at the man who raised him with a cold, terrifying clarity. Just don't." The silence that follows is the heaviest thing I've ever felt. My parents stand in the center of the room, surrounded by the evidence of their greed, while the practical daughter they ignored watches their world turn to ash. The auction didn't just sell art, it sold a scandal. By the next morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating, the glass screen hot against my palm as news of the artist's revenge tore across the internet. The bidding sheets were filled with numbers that made my head spin, enough to cover Liam's rehab, his rent, and a new life for him and Anya. 6 months later, the air in Liam's new apartment smells like fresh paint and pine-scented cleaner. It's a small place, ground floor with wide doorways, but it's full of light. I watch him grip the parallel bars in the center of the room. His face is drenched with sweat, his jaw set in a hard, stubborn line. He takes a step, then another. The metal of the bars creak under his weight, a slow, mechanical groan, but he stays upright. Anya stands a foot away, her hands hovering, not touching him, letting him claim the distance. He catches my eye and gives me a tired, jagged grin. It's the first real smile I've seen on him since the wreck. I don't work at the accounting firm anymore. My hands are permanently stained with phthalo blue and linseed oil, and for the first time, I don't scrub it off. I've traded the spreadsheets for a life where the truth is the only thing I have to balance. I drive past the old house once just to see it. The white colonial looks the same from the outside, but the wraparound porch is empty. There are no more Sunday pies cooling on the rack. The neighborhood is quiet, the kind of heavy silence that feels like held breath. Through the study window, I see the silhouette of my father sitting at that mahogany desk. He's probably staring at his ledgers, counting the $1.2 million that bought him a world cruise he'll never take and a villa where no one will visit. I think about the empty nest they were so afraid of. They finally got exactly what they wanted. They kept every penny, they kept the house, they kept the legacy. But the rooms are hollow now. The walls don't echo with the voices of their children. They only hold the weight of $1 million lie that no one is left to believe. I shift the car into gear and drive away. My stomach doesn't churn anymore. My pulse is steady. I'm not the practical daughter, and I'm not the daughter who needs a sacrifice. I'm just Ciara, and the only legacy I'm carrying is the one I painted myself. The smell of apple pie still lingers in my memories, but now I know it was just a scent used to mask the rot. Money can buy a villa in Tuscany, and it can buy a suite on a world cruise, but it can't buy back the 10 years of life they stole from a daughter, or the dignity they tried to take from a son. The desk is closed, the secret is out, and for the first time in my life, I don't owe them a single cent. Justice looks different for everyone. If this story moved you, please consider sharing it. Subscribe to join our community of storytellers.